Welcome all as we congregate to the greatest toy line in community, ever growing, ever changing. As we collect and adapt these figures to our own imaginations and embrace the fun, there's much to learn, especially if you're new to Mythics. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Special episode live. I don't do live very often with Curtis. I think Curtis kind of wanted it to be live. He likes the live recording.
Yeah.
He's a live guy. He likes it likes it fresh, likes it live. So we're doing live today. It's a special Gauntlet episode. I'm honored and proud to be part of it. I'm happy that you're going for the Gauntlet. Now, is this going to be like an every year thing? Are you going to keep pushing yourself?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like every couple of weeks there's a new Mythic show. So I mean, by the time next year rolls around, I might have to do twice as many shows. So I don't know. Just a fun idea. I obviously Purple Gang came up with it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just wanted to kind of push myself. And at the same time, if I can highlight some shows for people that maybe they wouldn't have known of before, like,
absolutely.
Yeah, let's do that. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Shit, I forgot what I was just going to ask you.
It's all right.
What was I going to ask you? I was going to ask you something about the Gauntlet. Shit. All right. Well, let's see who's here first.
Okay.
And maybe I'll remember what I was going to ask you. We got my buddy Charlie, V-Dog. We got Dub here first. Jeff Ray, the Cosmic Man. Jordan, Chewin. J Mac. We got Stoat. We got Joe. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. Well, let's jump into it, since I totally forgot the question I was going to ask you about what we were talking about. I didn't really want to ask you about like what toys you collected and stuff. You've talked about it already. I really am so interested in the customizing aspect. I feel like you personally, and I don't know if I'm heaping too much credit, but I feel like you personally have really brought a lot of attention to customizing in the Cabal. And so I'm curious about...
Appreciate that.
No problem. I'm curious about how your customizing journey started. Like I was amazed. Cornboard the other day was saying that he customized his Migos when he was a kid, and I'm like, I never thought about that. I'm like, that's freaking genius. So when did the customizing thing kind of happen with you?
So, I mean, first off, I had like zero art background. Like growing up, I couldn't draw, I couldn't paint, I couldn't anything. I had zero artistic ability. And then, I had stopped collecting toys, probably around 15, 16, and didn't start back up till I was in my probably late 30s. And the way it started up was I went to a flea market and I saw, some vintage He-Man figures that kind of like, hit me in the nostalgic feelings and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, I picked some of those up, and some of them were kind of beat up, as like they have like the box of figures, and some of them are missing armor. Some of them have like a bunch of paint chips and stuff off of them and stuff. So, I picked up some of them for like $5 a piece and everything. And I was like, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just see if I can get some paints and touch these up just to make them, kind of look fresh and new again. So, that's kind of where it started, was just kind of touching up some vintage He-Man. And then from there, Super 7 had put out these like Motu muscle figures, like, the old muscle figures. They put out some Masters of the Universe ones. But they were just one solid color. And so I, kind of went from fixing up the vintage ones to go, okay, I wonder if I could take these little muscle figures and paint some of those up.
Mhm.
So I started painting on those. I'm, working on these little tiny ones and stuff. And it just so happened that as I'm doing this, I was listening to a podcast called Podcasters of the Universe, which is Stephen Bisciotti and Jeremy DeWitt. They do a Motu podcast. And through that is how I found out about Mythic Legions. And so, I fell in love with the Mythic Legions line. Steven sent me my first figure, which is a Lord Dragul.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things. I was telling Cornboy how I love how people kind of jump you into the line. It's
Mhm.
we all have that. Nah, I don't want another line. Everyone says that. I don't want to start another line. I've got enough stuff I'm collecting already, and people are like, no. You gotta try this.
You just got to get one figure in their hand, and then that's it. It's
Just get
game over.
one damn figure in their hand, and they're hooked. So you're
Yeah.
Lord Dragul. Awesome.
Yep. So I mean, like many people, my entry was one of the Motu tributes, and then from there, I Steven had recommended I join the Cabal, which for those you don't know, the Mythic Legion Cabal's Facebook group, a bunch of Mythic Legions fans, as well as people that, want to post stuff that's not Mythic Legion and complain when the post gets taken down. But it's a great place. And then I saw a lot of customizing going on. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is all this? Like, it's like, they're not just restoring, old figures. They're not touching up things. They're like actually like creating whole new things with these things. And it just seemed very interesting. And so I kind of went headfirst into it and started with painting some like the little details like on the knight armor, just like the little trim pieces and stuff, and some of the rivets and everything, and then kind of went from there and started doing some more crazier creations as I went along. So I would go ahead.
Focus the most on customizing mythics, or do you kind of venture out into other, like that Batman could use like different paint applications?
I really have tried to mostly stay with mythics, but sometimes I'll get a figure from another line, like a Batman. There's been a couple Batmans that I've gotten either from Mythics or McFarlane or whatever, where I'm like, man, if they would have just done this one extra paint app, like this would have been perfect, or whatever. Like the most recent one, the Mythics Nightfall Batman. They've got the yellow logo on the chest, and then they've got a trim around it that's supposed to be black in the comic book, but they didn't paint it black. Yeah. And I'm like, you paint that one extra oval black, and the thing just pops. And
My theory here, and guys, let me know. Curtis is always right, and so if a figure comes, his mind is saying no. It's not right. I need to fix it. So that is how the true customizing began. Was Curtis got this figure and he's like, this is not perfect. I can make it better.
I think it's just, we have our vision of what we want something to be, and you just if you can make it happen, go ahead and make it happen, Captain.
I love that though, because I would sit as a kid or whatever and be like, that kind of sucks that they didn't paint his face. Like I had a Wheeled Warriors, they have these little, 1.5-inch figures, with just no face painting at all. And I was like, I'll deal with it. It never freaking occurred to me to paint it. I mean, I might have messed it up, but you actually was like, I'm gonna paint it. What would Curtis do exactly?
It's interesting because if you just go down the toy aisle of your local Target or Walmart or something, a lot of times you'll see some toys that have really good sculpts, but not great paint jobs. And initially you may look at it and go, man, that's a terrible looking toy. But then if you like really closely, whether it's under a magnifying glass or whatever, you look at the details of it, it's like, man, they sculpted it well. They just didn't do a great paint job on it. So, I've seen people take like G.I. Joe classifieds and repaint the heads and things like that. And it's like, oh my God, I can't believe that's the same thing.
Yeah. I gave a couple of heads to, David Williams that are mythic heads, but I mean the sculpt is there and the paint was good, but like he just kicked it up 18 notches.
You want to see a little exclusive content for new to Mythics?
Here we go, guys. We
This,
got the scoop. Look at
these are
this.
my little
Oh,
Motu muscle
hell
figures
yeah.
that kind of got me started.
I love it.
I don't know if that's gonna focus, but there we go. So
Yeah,
that's
that's sweet.
Manny faces. Here's a little battle cat. So those were all like one solid color.
Dude, you did a damn fine job, dude.
So those are some of my first paint jobs on there. So this one's one of my favorite, this Beast Man. So
awesome. Trap jaw is my favorite. Do you have a trap jaw?
I do.
Let me see. Bust it out, man.
I don't know if this camera's gonna focus.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
so small, but there we go.
No, those are awesome. I don't think I've ever seen those before.
Yeah, they're this one is a big set. It comes like this.
Okay. Yeah, I never seen those.
Yeah, cool. So it was like they were cool, but I was like, I just want to see them with color on them. I want to see what they would look like. Here's and we just got that Buzz Off.
Yeah, it's the month of Buzz Off.
Yeah.
What paints
that was how I got started.
What paints did you use back then? Like, did you like experiment with different paints?
I've experimented with a ton of different paints, but I mostly started with some Vallejo and Citadel because that's what my local comic book store had.
Started off with good shit.
Well, yeah, I mean once again, I had no art background, so I had never really even been into a Hobby Lobby or a Michaels or any of that kind of stuff. So all I knew about painting or paints was what was in my comic book store. So yeah, I just grabbed colors that I thought would work from there, and yeah.
Now, do you think like the painting, is it like a talent is that something that you can get better at or get good at, or do you think it's like just a natural ability? Some people can paint, some people can't.
Here's what I'll tell you. I feel like I've recently been putting out some customs that people have enjoyed and people have thought are pretty good, I think, because I've gotten a good response from it. And I started out with zero artistic ability. This is not something that you have to be born with. Now, are there certain people that pick it up quicker? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tanya McCoy started off and, her first 4 are just like absolute fire.
Sometimes, yeah, they're bangers.
Yeah, sometimes that learning curve is just, not as steep, but yeah, anybody can do this. It's just a matter of time and having fun and enjoying it. That's what it's all about.
I agree. I think the fun part is huge.
Yeah.
Just trying it and just giving it a shot. And people say, grab something. I think someone, I don't know who it was, but they said, because like a lot of people are afraid to use a mythic for their first, paint project. So I think someone said do a sword or a weapon or something or a shield.
I tell you what, my first one was a Cavern Dwarf. Because when I got into the line, there were no active pre-orders from the 4 Horsemen that I could get into. They were all had already been solicited. It was right after Alithia had closed. And so the only figures that were available were what was on Big Bad Toy Store. And one of them was a Cavern Dwarf. So I picked it up and I'm sitting there looking at it. I'm like, this is a cool figure, but there's just not a lot of paint apps. Now at the time I didn't understand the, Legion builders and how that worked or any of that kind of stuff. And I just started kind of painting in the line. So that little trim that they've got on the torso, I think I painted the inside of the trim black and then the 2 lines that go on the outside like silver. And that was it, just 2 colors. So black and silver, and made those little paint hits. And then I hit the rivets that are on there. Next thing you know, that looks like a totally different figure.
Absolutely. I've seen your videos.
Yeah. So, I hear that often that, the 2 things that I hear often is A, I don't know how to paint. and B, I'm nervous about putting this on a figure. And neither one of those are valid excuses, because one, you can grab a Legion builder and just, hit those small parts like I talked about. And 2, it's not about matter of being an excellent painter. Just there's some easy things to start with. Start with the rivets, start with dry brushing, things like that. Now, I wouldn't advise somebody who's painting for the first time to try to paint like a flesh tone face and eyes and all this kind of stuff. That's going to be some stress. Level. Yeah, that's going to be some stress for you, because eyes are difficult. Getting the shades and highlights of a human face are difficult. But painting a helmet, painting a sword, like you said, yeah, those things are easy.
Yeah. Can you tell people that are new to painting, like myself, basically, can you describe the process of dry brushing?
Yeah. So well, I'll like, explain the process that I was using, which was wrong and stupid, and what I do now. So, um, typically you're taking a brush, you're dipping it in paint, and then you're trying to take most of that paint off of the brush before applying it to the figure, and you're just lightly brushing back and forth, or it depending on how you want it to go. Sometimes you may just brush in one direction, like if you want it to look like lights hitting it a certain way or whatever. But yeah, you're just basically lightly touching the surface with the paint. And what I was using before was I was just wiping it off on a paper towel. And I did that for quite some time. But then, over time, I heard from people and saw that like it dries up the medium in there. And so then when you're dry brushing, you end up with like this chalky residue on there, or chalky look to it.
Mhm.
So what I've recently been using is I got what they call a dry brush palette, which is just like a plastic, like plastic rectangle with some texture on it. And so I wipe off most of the paint on there. And then when I'm done with that, I use the back of my hand, and I'll just kind of lightly brush it on my hand. And what I'm expecting to see when I brush it on my hand is that it doesn't completely cover my hand with the paint, but like the inside crevices, like I can still see the skin on the like the texture on my skin, but on top I've got it. And then once I've got that, I know I can apply it to the figure.
So is it kind of like controlling the amount of paint that goes on the figure?
Yeah, and it's really hitting the surface areas. So I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, okay, like this, the red jet here. So he's got these cloth upper arms and legs, and in there they've got a recessed area that's in there, and then it's got like a raised area. So if you, let's say I wanted to paint this black, but then I wanted to have let's say I wanted to do like blue jeans, right? I could do a dark blue, paint the whole thing a dark blue, and then lightly dry brush a lighter blue on top of this, and really kind of achieve that blue jean look to where you have multiple colors and depth in there. So that's kind of what you're trying to do.
I see.
Starting out like a sword or something. Let's say you took a Mythic Legion sword, which I just happen to have one here. So let's say you took this and you wanted to kind of change this up a bit. You could paint the blade on this black, and then take some like lead belcher, which is a metallic Citadel paint, and get most of the paint off of it, and then dry brush that on here, and you're going to see this all of a sudden start to pop a little bit more like a real blade. It's going to look more metal.
So it's going to give more like color dimensions.
Yeah.
To just a basic flat, basic color.
Correct.
So
yeah.
do you customize all the mythics that you get? So say you get a Legion builder, or you get, do you appreciate the figure just on its own, or do you get each one and be like, I need to touch this up a little bit. This needs another paint app, or this needs.
Yeah, so I've got a lot. I wouldn't say I got every figure, but I've got a lot of the figures kind of as is, the way they come from the Horsemen in my collection. And then there's certain ones that, I customize, fairly quickly, or I bought them just for customizing.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I don't really mess with too much is the figure obscura. Like I feel so passionate about the figure obscura. It's just it's such a collaboration of everybody that works at that studio, from Nate Barch's art on the box, and Trevor's pictures, and Dorklair doing the reviews, and the paint jobs, and the sculpting, and the story that Jeremy tells. It's just this, I don't know, it's like this whole teamwork thing that came together. And then you see these things and they're absolutely beautiful. So I rarely ever customize anything with a figure obscura, but everything else pretty much is fair game. So
so you think that the figure obscura, they put a little bit extra attention and work into
I think that they probably do put a little bit more because they're focusing on a single figure or a single release. Because sometimes it might be, with the
Right.
Headless Horseman, it was a figure and a horse, or with the Anubis one, it was Anubis and Bastet. But they're focusing on that one single release. So yeah, I think they probably do put a little bit more time into it. But at the same time, it's just the whole experience of it from, on a Friday night, them
So much
throwing out the
fun.
teaser and then everybody making their guesses to the Saturday reveal and then Dork Layers review. And then Trevor goes live to talk about it. It's just like, it's just a whole experience.
Yeah,
And
I
then
love it.
within a week, usually, or a week or two, you've got that figure in hand.
Mhm.
It's not like you got to wait 2 years for this thing. It's like pretty much as close to instant gratification as you can get. So
Absolutely. I'm all for that. And I'm hoping that we have at least one more before the end of the year. What do you think?
yeah, typically we get something around the Halloween time frame. So I wouldn't be surprised to get something in October, and then probably something in around Christmas.
Yeah.
Being as that it's already August, I doubt we'll get anything between now and October. But yeah, I would say October probably will be getting one.
I think the retails are coming, what, in a month or so?
Uh,
September?
maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Yeah, I'm excited
I
for it.
did see a comment on here. Oh, Stoatzilla was asking, ask Curtis about his thumbnail. So,
I was,
so
yeah. Go
yeah.
ahead.
So it's something that people kind of poke fun at me often. In fact, it's even in my logo, the Art by Akerman logo, which my buddy Len LaGuardia made for me. It's got a little painted thumbnail on there. In fact, I've got some paint on my thumb right now. And typically when I'm painting like the really detailed, like fine lines and things like that, I want to make sure that I have the right amount of paint on my brush and I've got it coming to a really sharp point. And so what I'll do is after I've got what I feel like is close to the right amount of paint, I will just make like these little lines on my thumb and make sure that it looks the way that I want it to look. And I don't have too much paint or too little paint, that kind of thing. And then once I feel like it's the where I want it, then I'll put it on the figure, because what you don't want to do is go to put that paintbrush right onto a figure and then you go, oh crap, I had too much paint and now it's
Right.
smeared everywhere, or I didn't have enough, and then you press a little bit harder and then now it goes all over the place. So
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I paint on canvas, and and amount of paint, especially in detailed parts, you can't really take it off. So you really have to control how much paint is on your brush and make sure. So I get it that you do it on your thumb. I'd never thought about that, but it's like right where you're, it's right near where you're painting. So you're just putting
it's just a little thumb palette, and there's no right or wrong way to do this stuff. That's just the way that I do it. But some people use their palette to do that. Some people use a wet palette. I love using a wet palette. Some people use an airbrush, and I consider that witchcraft. But
how does that wet palette work? I've seen you use it, and I don't understand what the
Yeah, I've got a little like 10-minute video up on the Wolf King Customs YouTube page. It's like 10 minutes. Basically a wet palette. It's like a container, and it's got a sponge in it and then a piece of paper on it. And then it's got a lid that closes it airtight. And what you're doing is you put some water in there to kind of fill up the sponge, and then that paper that you've got on top of it, the water seeps through very gently through there to keep your paints, from getting dried out. Okay. So you get it. You don't want too much water in there, and you don't want a paper that's too thin to where it comes through and kind of liquefies your paints. But you do want to keep them to where they don't, dry out on you. So that's the benefit of a wet palette.
So that's like if you had a blend of paint, like you're doing a skin tone, and you found like the perfect tone for the skin. You don't want to lose that. So say you go have a sandwich, you got to try and find that match again. And so like this wet palette will keep that.
Yeah. So that paint. A lot of times I'm mixing colors. Like I don't just typically use something right out of the bottle, because I'm trying to achieve a certain look. So, and like one of my favorite paints to use is So Flat paint from Golden, and they don't have 100, 200 colors like a Citadel or Vallejo. They've got their colors are There's a lot less of them. So you got to mix and match in order
Mhm.
to achieve the look that you're looking for. So yeah, if I get to a certain blue that I want exactly, what I don't want to do is either, have it dry up, or maybe I get called away for a meeting, or I
Mhm.
have to, I get a phone call or something and come back, and now I got to try to mix that paint and
Mhm.
get it the exact same way. So
Right.
yeah, that wet palette will keep it, the way it's supposed to be. And you can, I mean, depending on what wet palette you have and how you're using it, you can come back the next day, 2 days later,
I
whatever,
need to look
and
into that. That's pretty cool.
it's still the same as when you left it. So
Now, do you use? Is it okay, or have you used like two different types of paint, like, or two different brands? I mean,
mhm.
like, do you
the
cross streams and have, a Citadel with a
Yeah, I mix
Vallejo?
Citadel and SoFlat a lot. My understanding is that SoFlat and Vallejo don't mix well for whatever reason. I'm not sure why that is.
Okay.
And you don't want to mix like enamels and acrylics. Typically you want to paint with just acrylic paint, but on action figures. Um, but yeah, I mix different ones all the time. So
Hmm. I see John McGovern here says that I bought a bunch of printing errors for $1 each to practice on. So that's a good idea. I think
yep.
you
The,
don't have a
the
lot to lose.
yeah,
Like,
another thing is if you've got, you go to the store and you find some McFarlane figures that are on clearance, or you go to a flea market or a toy show and they've got like those figures in the bins that are $1, grab a few of those and work on it. So
let's see here. Dirk Curtis got me turned on to using a wet palette. Now my little Curtis voodoo doll will fall in love with my airbrush. We're set. So what is this with airbrush? Like, do you think it's cheating? Do you think it's like what's what
so
what's your official take on that?
for me, there is very few things that you can do with an airbrush that you can't do with a paintbrush. But to me, it's kind of taking a shortcut. Um, and I would rather have the experience of doing it by hand. Now, that means that I'm a lot slower than somebody that uses an airbrush. In fact, I'm probably a lot slower than most people that customize, because I'm like super meticulous about how
Hmm.
things look. And I've definitely got that imposter syndrome where I'm like, I'm not as good as what I should be, or, the other people in
Yeah.
the community.
But you're having
And
fun. You don't want to
right.
get race to the end. You're enjoying the process of painting.
But I will do, like, I'm like looking at my figure under a magnifying glass. I'm taking pictures and zooming it in. And if it's not exactly the way I want to, I'm continuing to paint at it. So I spend a lot more time than I probably should. Now, that being said, I'm going to give you a little breaking news here. This is a new new to Mythic
Another scoop,
exclusive.
guys. What we got?
Um, the biggest part about the airbrush that I don't like is that you need space to do this. Like, because you have to have a ventilation thing.
Mhm.
You've got to have, it takes up an area. And I've got 4 kids living at my house, and I need to get them to move out. Like the oldest one is 25 in the house. The youngest are 18. I'm ready for them to move out. As soon as they move out, honestly, I'm probably going to get an airbrush. But like I said, don't tell anybody. That's just between me and you, Schmerber.
Absolutely.
Um,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
but I
Thanks for
will
that.
still probably, even once I do that, I'll still probably try to do as much as I can with a paintbrush, just
Yeah.
because I enjoy it. I enjoy trying to, like, one of the things that I've really picked up over the past year is painting a lot of like animal heads. And and I like doing research. Like, if let's say I'm painting right now on my desk, I've got a beaver kit that's from Wolf King Customs, and I'll do a bunch of research and look up like different faces of beavers,
Mhm.
and then when you look at these things that naturally occur in our world, it's typically not one color or 2 colors. It's a whole variety of
Right.
colors within that fur and stuff. So trying to achieve that look with a paintbrush is the challenge for me.
I agree with you. Yeah. Lynn sent me I don't see him very often. It's a dog that has the pack that you can take on and off. Um, I think that they said they had a hard time printing it.
Mm,
Um, And anyways, so Lynn sent it to me, and I don't want to just start. I want to figure out how to make the fur look like fur. So I agree with you on that. But I
Mm.
think that's the fun part. It's like not a mental challenge, but it's like, something that's going to occupy your mind, and take your mind off of work, or take your mind off of issues. And,
Yeah.
it's like you're researching something that you enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of similar to, like, for instance, let's say that I wanted to make a Wolverine tribute from Mythic Legion parts, right? If if I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, how am I going to make the claws? And my answer is, well, I'll just buy a Wolverine figure from the store and steal the claws from that and put it on it. Yeah, I can do that, but what's the fun in that? Like, that's, you're just taking a Wolverine claw and making it into a Wolverine claw. Like, I would rather try to figure out how can I use mythic parts
Hmm.
to create a Wolverine claw,
I
you
want to
know?
show people. I know everyone in the chat has seen this, but this freaking elephant, dude, is just stupid. Like,
Yeah, see, so like with this, um, I the elephant head is a printed head from Wolf King Customs, but like the body, that's a troll body that I put an extra set of troll legs on there, and tried to make it into an elephant with mythic parts. Same thing with these figures, like this is a Lord of the Rings tribute, and the driver of these Oliphants have this big kind of like battle standard or something behind him, and
yeah,
I'm like, how am I going to create that? And so I just kept looking at the shape and looking at the parts that I had in my fodder bins and stuff, and go, okay, if I took a dwarf shield and cut the sides off of it, and then put a bow on the top, a long bow, and then put a
insane.
crossbow underneath, it'll give me that same kind of overall silhouette that I'm looking for.
Yeah,
And then, it's just a
so
matter of
elaborate.
painting it up with the details. So
How long did it take you to create this?
this whole thing took me about 2 months. So
Wow.
the biggest part of it, the like carriage part that they're standing on,
Yeah.
is back adapters and spears put together, kind of as floorboards, and then
Sick.
it's weaved with twine. And that weaving took a ton of time. Like, that was just
Yeah. Look
that
at. I
took
mean,
that took
how
the longest
intricate.
part. But like, even like one of my favorite parts of this one was the face on this driver. I love, like,
Yeah.
just that really tight detail, freehand. It's nice when you get a sculpt that all those details are already sculpted in it, and then it's just kind of like following along the lines. But when you have to freehand a design like that, there's something very stressful, but at the same time very rewarding with it.
Yeah. Right. I mean, you had to be super confident in your skills. This is not something, early Curtis in customizing would
Oh, no,
even
no.
attempt, right? Like, you had to be
Correct.
like, you know what, I'm gonna. So how did this come about? Like, what did you? What? Where was the genesis of this creation? How did you?
So I saw that elephant head from Wolf King Customs, and I was like, okay, well, I can just put it on a troll and just call it a day. But once again, what's the fun of that? I
Right.
want to do. I've seen other people paint that head and put it on a troll. Like, how can I actually turn this into an elephant? How can I make a troll be on all four legs? And then it was like, okay, well, if I do an elephant on all four legs, how do I make that special? And it's like, okay. And so I was talking to Len, and Len's like, well, what about those ones from Lord of the Rings where the elephants come charging at him and they got the people on top? And I'm like, awesome, great. So then I'm like doing research, and just like I'm watching that clip of the movie and taking
Mhm.
screenshots, and trying to see every single angle of it so that I
Like,
could
how am
try
I
to
gonna do
match as much
this?
of it as possible. Like the design on that elephant's trunk there and stuff, like, that's directly from the movie. The
I
design
love that.
on that driver's head is directly from the movie.
It's insane.
And once again, it's similar to what I was saying with the animal stuff before. It's like, okay, now how do I, with the parts that I have and with my paintbrush, recreate that same kind of
Mhm.
look with this? So
Was there ever a moment where you're like, I can't do this? I
no, there
can't
was
do this using.
No, there wasn't a moment that I was like, I can't do this. There was definitely a moment where I was like, I'm ready to be done with this
Yeah,
because, you know, a 2-month project is a long time.
absolutely.
And yeah, there was definitely a moment towards the end where it's like, I just want to, you know, move on to something else. There's other things that I want to paint.
Mhm.
So
I've
yeah.
had times, and I've heard other artists that they say like it's hard to be done with something. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's like you don't, or a story or something artistic. It's like it's hard to know when it's you're okay. I'm not gonna mess with this anymore. Or like George Lucas in Star Wars. It's like you want to tinker. You want to. I can make it better. I can change it. I can do something. So do you have that same kind of, or are you when you're done, you're done?
Yeah, I don't typically have like once I'm done, I'm done. But I will say that throughout the creative process, I may have one idea in my head about how something's going to go, and then as the process goes along, it completely changes.
Mm,
Be it because something bad happened and I'm trying to make the best of it, or I just found a different idea. Um, a recent example is that cosmic swig that I did. Well, originally it wasn't going to be a cosmic swig. All I was trying to do was take the hat off of him, and I was going to try to see about, you know, maybe painting a different color or whatever. And as I was taking it off, it ripped. And
mm.
and I'm like, oh boy, okay, well, it ripped now. I can't use this. So what can I do? And I'm
Right.
like, well, what if I gave him a helmet? And then I'm like, well, if I'm going to give him a helmet, you know, how about I give him a cosmic helmet? And then, you know, so then the idea kind of develops from there. And then
Right.
it's a matter of like, what parts are you going to use and what kind of paint scheme you're going to use? Well, since I'm doing a swig and there's the whole, you know, in the storyline that he drinks these elixirs and it, you know, creates all these different swigs and they're all different versions of them. I'm like, you know, I still want it to look similar to swig. So even though it's on a cosmic body, it's on a 1.0, it's not a smaller goblin size. How can I make this still look, people will recognize it as swig? So I tried to keep that same color scheme throughout, that like coppers and blacks
Mhm.
and purple. Um, and yeah, it came out. I really enjoyed the way that it finished, but that's definitely not the way that I thought it was going to look when I started.
It's kind of a challenge though for you, like, personally. It's like, okay, this didn't work, so now I need to figure out, I'm gonna make a right instead of a left, and I'll
Yep.
figure out.
Yeah, you just got to pivot and keep moving forward.
Now, one more
Um,
question before we go on something else about
sure.
painting. Um, I read somewhere that if you make a mistake on a mythic paint wise, you can take it off. Like,
Mm.
and it won't remove the paint that's underneath. Like, what's the process on that? Like,
It depends on like if you just did it, like let's say I'm painting and I, you know, make a mistake and I go in a spot that I'm not supposed to go into. I have these like little pointed Q-tips and I'll just dip one of those in water and kind of wipe that area and it comes right off.
okay,
If it's something where you painted something and then 2 years later you want to take it off, that's a little bit different.
okay,
Then you can try a few different things. Some people will say try rubbing alcohol. I know one thing that's very popular in community is they've got this. It's called like Totally Awesome spray. It's, you know, like you can find it at like Dollar General and stuff. And if you soak parts in that, usually it'll take it off, but it won't take the factory paint off. So there's a few different ways of doing that. I usually don't go back after the fact. So if I make a mistake right at the time, I will fix it.
right,
But I won't go back and say, "Oh, well, this is something I did 2 years ago, and now I want to take the paint off." I'll just buy a new figure.
right, right, right. Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
easier to buy a new one and start over.
I
So
see. Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that because if I make a mistake, I want to be able to try and go back and hit reset. And
yep,
so customizing studio is, as far as I know, that's your baby. That's your creation. You
yeah.
thought it up. How did that come about?
So I was helping out Wolf King Customs kind of develop their YouTube page as well as the Wolf Den, and just make there be some extra content for people. So if you go to like Wolf King Customs YouTube page, there's some tutorials in there from Emil, from Steven, from myself on how to paint, you know, goblin skin or human skin, or how to paint, how to start with the rivets, or how to use a wet palette, things like that. So I was kind of developing that. And then in the Wolf Den, I was doing this thing where kind of like on Sunday mornings, I would just go live and I would paint something and people would just tune in and watch. And sometimes there'd be 2 or 3 people in there. There wasn't usually a lot, but other people would be painting while they're listening to me. And I'm like, well, shoot, if they're painting and I'm painting, why don't we just make this like a call instead? So we started that in the Wolf Den, because they had a thing where you could do like a live room, right? And so then people could just get in there. Well, then they removed rooms and they made it to where you had to go through Messenger and kind of do a messenger call. So when that happened, I talked to Walter about possibly doing it in the Cabal instead. He was all for it because, anytime that we can get people customizing and more involved, that's great. And so we started it in the Cabal, and it's every Sundays at 1 p.m. And now I want to specify Sundays at 1 p.m. is the time that works for me. That's the time that I want to hold myself accountable for, no matter what goes on the week. If I don't, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday through Friday through Saturday, whatever, I don't have time to paint. Hopefully I do. But if I don't, I know Sundays at 1 p.m. I'm painting regardless. So that's when I start the studio. But anybody that's in the studio is welcome to start up a studio call anytime they want. So if maybe Sundays at 1 p.m. doesn't work for somebody and they'd rather do, Saturday at 4 p.m., hey, have at it. If they want to do, Tuesday at 3 a.m., as long as you're not doing a call to where everybody's phone's ringing at 3 a.m. while they're trying to sleep, yeah, you can do a call whenever you want. But the one that we have set up standard is the 1 p.m. On Sundays.
So what do you mean by it calling? So I had talked to Steph, and we're both kind of night owls. And I was thinking it would be cool. I don't get home until 2 a.m. And most people are not awake. But I know that like Legion's chat, I've seen go until 5 a.m. or 6. But so say I wanted to start one at 1 or 2 in the morning, or I would jump on and do so does that call everyone when I hit the camera?
What you would probably want to do is create a separate group. So we've got a main customizing studio group, and then we've got one for the calls. So like what I would do is go in the main customizing studio group and say, hey, planning on doing a call tonight at 11 p.m. Anybody interested? And people would say, yeah, I'm interested. Count me in, blah, 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 blah. And then you would create a separate group in Messenger for those people that were interested. And once you've got that group, you just hit the little camcorder icon at the top, and then it'll create a call. And then anybody that wants to join can join. They're in there, you're in there, and then you guys.
I don't want to call everybody.
Well, that's why you create a separate group just for the people that are interested in that particular call. So,
Brendan, I'll have to talk to you about doing we'll have to figure out the late night thing. Because it's fun. And like you said, it's like not everyone can I want to hit Echevarria.
Yeah, and I was really excited. Jeremy reached out to me earlier this year and said, would you guys be willing to do a customizing studio event at Legions Con? And at first I was like, well, how are we going to do that? Because like typically in the customizing studio, we're all working on our own individual projects in our individual houses with our individual paint sets. Like you can't just transport that all to Legions Con. So like, how's that going to work? And so we kind of had to think about how that would work. And I was kind of passing the idea between me and Jesse and Van and Jordan, as well as Len. And kind of what we came up with was, what if we had some tables set up in a room? Because they're going to give us a room that'll hold 50 people. So what if we had some tables set up in the room where we had some artists from the customizing studio that are in there each week, have them at these tables, and then give everybody something to paint. And what the something became is a bust. It's a bust with a wolf with a crown on his head, and it's got like a kind of a tunic, and it says, customizing studio on the bust. It's really nice, but it's not anything that's super elaborate. Like the tunic can be one solid color. The wolf head could be, you could do like a black base and then dry brush some brown on it and pretty much call it a day on that, other than painting the eyes. So it's a fairly easy one to do. And the studio said that they would provide paint and brushes, so we don't have to worry about everybody bringing their paints. We don't have to worry about everybody bringing their projects. And now people can come in, get that bust, go to one of these 6 tables that are set up, and they can either paint their bust that they have, or they can just watch the artist paint and ask them questions and stuff. So
that was my thinking too. Is
yeah.
I'm still so new and uncertain when it comes to painting figures. I just want to
Mhm.
see some artistry, and to be in a room with that was a great idea. Is getting people that are really active, like Brendan, like
Mhm.
Mira. You got Jordan, who did this amazing head the other day. Was that a Punisher head that he did?
Yeah, that Punisher was awesome. Yeah, so
Man,
good.
that
Yeah,
5 o'clock shadow, beautiful.
I know, right?
Yeah, Van. I mean,
Yeah, and
great
so,
work.
kind of the idea with that is that, maybe we can get some people to either start customizing or
Yes.
continue on their customizing journey, share some ideas. I know Maverick, who's one of the artists that's going to be at the table, has created some like pamphlets that'll have like just some beginning information. Like, here's some different paintbrushes to buy. Here's some
Mhm.
artists on YouTube that you may want to check out to learn some things. Just different stuff like that. So I think it's going to be a really fun event. I'm really excited about that.
Me too. I love it, and whenever I get a chance, like I had Brendan on a month or so ago, and we were talking about it. I'm gonna have him on again, but I just love the idea of just like the community doing something together, even though
Mhm.
we're all over the country or whatever.
Yep.
It's like we all can just sit there, and I tell people like they're I'm nervous. I don't want to be in front. I don't want to. It's like, no, you're doing your own thing. It's
Mm.
like it's just being part of the community and being creative and sharing that. And you can have your mic off, you can have your thing off if you want, and see what other
Well,
people are doing.
yeah, and that's part of why I do the customizing studio each Sunday, because going to my first Legions Con, it was like overload, man. It's just there's so much to see, so many great people. Like you're you just absolutely have an amazing time, and then you get back home and it's like, wow, I won't see some of those people again for a year.
Yeah,
And you kind of get what they call the post Legion Con blues, and
absolutely.
it's rough. And
It
so
lasts.
yeah. So after my first Legions Con, I kind of went into like a 3-month depression, like serious. I didn't paint. It was not good.
Mhm.
And so going into this past Legions Con, I was like, I don't want to do that again. So as soon as Legions Con's over, I want to make sure that the studio is going every week. I want to hang out with my friends. I want to talk to, see people like Emil. I don't want to, Emil's in Sweden. I'm here in Missouri. Like, we're not going to see each other but once a year.
Yeah,
But through the studio, we can see each other every single week. So,
absolutely. And I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, that
So
that interaction.
yeah. So there's a creative part to it, but a lot of it is just kind of the fellowship and hanging out with people that you care about. So
Absolutely. Yeah, for anyone that's on the fence or not sure, just pop in
yep.
and say hi to some amazing people that are doing some awesome creative things. I was nervous when I popped in. I was in Vermont. I didn't have any paints. I didn't really have any figures, but I knew you guys, so I was like popping in and, what are you working on? What are
Mhm.
you working on? And eventually Curtis like, Schmerber, you need to paint something. So I think I bought like a little hat from um what's his name, Wolf Labs, the guy that does the dios and stuff. He
Mhm.
had some little misprint stuff, so I was painting a hat, painting a sword, but it kind of helps me break the ice, or it helps me be okay to paint and
Yeah.
to be with you guys. And you said something about imposter syndrome, and I get that it's a real thing, but like, people in this community are so generous and kind and friendly, that you're not going to be made felt like you're inadequate, or you're not going to be like, hey Greg, your paint sucks.
Mm.
It's you're going to give me tips or suggestions on how to make it better.
Yeah.
It's like a
Well,
learning. Everyone's in different stages of expertise.
yeah. I mean, There is some critique of the cabal that it can be kind of an echo chamber, that regardless of what you put out there, you're going to get positive feedback, and that is somewhat true. It is a very positive place. And so, if you are looking for direct feedback and you want to get better, there's definitely people in the community that you can contact and you can send your stuff to and say, hey, here's what I just did. What do you like about this? What do you not like about this? But if you want that honest critique, just know you got to be ready for what you're going to get back, because
Absolutely. I
it may
mean,
cause you some extra work. And it's not that anybody's out to hurt your feelings or anything, but if you want that critique, they're going to give it to you. So,
right. Yeah. I mean, I would rather you be truthful than to say,
right.
hey, that's the best thing I've ever seen. You know,
Yep.
Hey, you can do this to make it look better, or you can try this, or, and there's a wealth of videos that you guys have put out now that if you're not comfortable yet with the studio, check out the videos on YouTube that Curtis has done. I've seen Steve Bashadi do some um on what are the is it Wolf King Customs
YouTube. Yep.
Yeah, so check out some videos, and then just hop in and say hi, and what are you guys working on? And
Yeah,
then
and it
just
doesn't even have to be painting. Like, we've got people in the customizing studio that are sculpting, some working on dios, some that are just doing pop and swap. I mean, this is a line that was built around the ability to make these modular and kind of pop and swap and do. I mean, that's customizing as well. Anything time that you're changing the way that it looks out of the box, that's customizing. So, yeah, there's all kinds of different ways to be creative in this community. Photography. So yeah, I mean, it's just, find which one that you like and have
yes,
fun with it.
absolutely, absolutely, and I'm all for that. I love that.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's awesome that the customizing studio has grown that much and has become so popular that Jeremy's reaching out, and it's now going to be an officially welcome thing, and make time for it. Could you tell us again the time and the what day it's going to be on at
The
Legion's Con?
customizing studio event at Legion's Con is 7 p.m. on the Friday. It is unfortunately full at this time. We do have a wait list going, but the room will only hold 50 people. So, based on, fire codes and all that kind of stuff, we can't have more than 50 people in that room. So unfortunately at this time it is full.
Yeah.
But Kent Pool, Kent Massinger from Kent Pool Collects, will be doing a video of the event. So anybody that's not able to attend, hopefully you can kind of see, you maybe pick up some things from the different artists in there, or kind of see what the event is like. And then who knows, maybe next year we get 2 rooms, or maybe we have
that
2
was
different
going to
time
be
slots. Maybe we have a 6 o'clock and a 7 o'clock or something like that. Whatever, if it warrants it based on the interest. But I'm excited. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And then for the weekly one, it's just Sundays, 1 p.m. And all you got to do is message me, and I will, put you in that group and go from there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, before I let you go, I wanted to talk real quick, since we're talking about Legion's Con. I wanted to do a little bit of predictions on your part. You said you had a theory. I'm talking about the 2 figures that showed up at IshCon. I wish I had a slide. I don't have a slide. I didn't think about it. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that those will show up at Legion's Con?
I don't think that those 2 green knights that we saw are figures that you specifically will buy as figures. I don't think those are finished figures that you will have. I think those are figures that you can create, because I think they're going to do something where you will be able to pick out the parts that you want for a figure, and they'll have them all in a standard color, maybe green, brown, whatever. They're going to have those parts out, and that you'll say, hey, I want to use these pauldrons, these arms, this head, whatever. They'll go out and grab all those parts, bring it to you in a tray, and then you put it together, and then you create that figure. That's what I think's going on. So
I think that would be fun.
I could be wrong, but I know that that's something that they talked about for a while, maybe trying to do on the site, and it just wasn't feasible. But at a live event, if you produced a bunch of these in the same colors as far as the parts and stuff, I could see that maybe working. There's also, there's the video game that's been out there that they've been working on for the last few years. one of the big parts of that video game is the customizing part of it, that you can kind of create your own characters and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they'll be there at Legion's Con, so perhaps they have, you know, some demos to where you can kind of create something on there and then take that and go over to the other table and go, hey, you know, here's the figure I created on the game. I want to make this. And you know,
Yeah, I could see that kind of going hand in hand.
yeah,
Creating your own figure and then having the video game to be able to build that into the video game. I can see that. I know William Golden. I'm not sure who else he had with him, but they had something like that at the IshCon, where you buy this, you know, it's like a hot dog tray, and it's like $45, and he's got all these, you know, buckets of parts, and you just create your own. And it looked like a lot of fun. I know my man Mark Thomas, he spent an hour building a figure, and it came out really well. So I think that would be a fun, or maybe, you know, maybe they would do it, you know, annually at Legion's Con, like have a, you know, a table of just, you know, all kinds of parts and all different colors and stuff. So I like that theory.
Now, all that being said, I have I get no information from the studio and have no connections when it comes to that stuff. So I could be 100% completely wrong.
You're a good predictor, though.
The things that lead me to believe that is that one night that they showed with like the Gorgo style head, it didn't seem like the green on the helmet matched the rest of the outfit. It was a little bit off. Which makes me think that's not a finished figure.
It almost looked like it was put together. They're like, here, build this, and then we'll just put it up, you know.
Yeah. So
but yeah, I agree with you on that. But that emerald one, though, that emerald one looked so good. I mean, it looked like mostly Valiant.
Yeah, with a bucket helmet and
it just looked so damn good.
Yeah,
I loved it. So I wanted to talk real quick about your I guess your wife is now part of your, so you guys have like a cape thing going. And so you're gonna bring, let's see, I have a slide here of, so you've got art by Akerman, you and Darla now. How did that come about? Did she just to say like, hey, I want to make capes, or I want to make some soft goods for?
Well, I had been buying some capes from different places. A lot of ones I got were from Max Bird. And you know, I would get them in and she would look at them, she'd go, you know, I could make you stuff like this. And I'm like, okay. So she made me a couple, and they were really good. Like, I mean, listen, she's my wife and I got to say nice things, but I will say, like, they were really good quality. And so then I sent some off to some friends and asked them kind of give me some feedback on it, and they really enjoyed them as well.
They're amazing.
And so, yeah, so she made a bunch last year, and we brought it to Legion's Con, and they were gone within a couple hours. Like it was super fast that those sold out. And then brought them to Mesquite Con this past year, and almost all of those sold out. And Mesquite Con's a lot smaller event, but we still almost sold out there. And then, so yeah, she's got a lot of them planned for Legion's Con, which is great for me because, you know, when you're getting a table, there's a little bit of pressure that's like, I got to fill this whole table. Like it's a, 6-foot table and I got to, get all this stuff on it. Like how, that's a lot of customs to do. So when you know that part of the table is going to be taken up with her, soft goods, then it's like, okay, now I can just enjoy myself, do what I want. I don't have to worry about, filling a table full of customs, which is really taking the stress off of me. And then on top of that, we're actually sharing part of our table with Tanya McCoy as well. She's going to be showing off her customs. So
nice.
Yeah. So that'll be awesome.
Now, are you going to sell anything at your table, or is it just for your customs and things?
Yeah, I'll be selling my customs. We'll be selling Darla's capes. She may have a couple things other than capes too, just FYI. So we'll see.
Scoop. That's another scoop. Yeah, I'm heading to that table. After I go through the line, I'm going to your table because I want to see those.
Yeah, I've had people say, "Oh, well, that's going to be one of my first stops." Here's what I'll tell you: if you want a certain color of cape, you'll probably need to get to us pretty early because we're only bringing so much of each color. But if you just want a cape, like you just want a cape from Darla, she's bringing a ton. but she has so many different colors and stuff that she's doing. Yeah, there will be capes probably all weekend, but if you want a specific color, you might want to get there quick. So
Awesome. And you're doing ones for different sized
yep,
characters. So I have a cool a dwarf
yep,
cape and then a regular, 1.0 cape.
yep. She got some dwarf ones, got some regulars, got some with hoods on them. We even another new to Mythic scoop here.
Another scoop.
We are doing something with Stephen Bisciotti. We created some soft goods for him that he will have at his table that he'll be packaging with something that he's making for a combo thing. So be on the lookout. That'll be news on that hopefully soon.
I was going to ask, when are we going to find out about that? Before the show?
I will tell you that our part of what we needed to do, the things that he needed from Darla, are complete, and she's already sent it off to him. So it's just a matter of him doing the part that he's got, and then I'm not sure whether he's going to reveal it before the show or at the show, but I can tell you that some of the soft goods that she made will be at Stephen Bisciotti's table in a special way. So
that's a good scoop. I appreciate that. I think I've covered pretty much all the questions I wanted to ask. I wanted to talk about real quick before I let you go. You are running the Gauntlet, and I am stop number 3?
You are stop number 8 now.
I'm stop number 8. Okay,
yeah.
So you're wrapping it up.
So, well, no, there's just been some added to it. So we hit, so you got the schedule there. We hit Saturday Day Live on Saturday. We hit Purple Gang. Then I went on Oz's Clubhouse, Osterdamus Toys. Sunday did Latin Legions and Shooting the Shelf. Yesterday we did Legion's Quest, and then I had a little special appearance on Kent Pool Collects on one of his toy hunts.
I did not see that. I wish
that was so. You're actually
at work.
So you're 8, I guess that would be. So yeah,
I'm honored. Thank you for reaching out. I know I had asked you before to be on my show, and it's hard. It's like there's so many friends and people that I respect that I would like to get on the show.
Well, we did have another conversation that never saw the light of day. If you remember,
refresh my memory.
You had another show.
I did.
Where Jesse and I did like a 3-hour talk with you, and it never saw the light of day.
Never saw the light of day. I know. I was so bummed out. I thought it was a great show. I mean, it was a bit long, but we had a great show, and I had asked Jeff, like, hey, we should put this out, but he and I had kind of parted ways on the show, in a friendly way. It wasn't like, I'm out of here. It was like,
we're not going to see you guys fist fighting at Legion's Con.
No, we're good. We're good. we hugged it out at IshCon. No, it was just like I love Mythics, and I'm not as passionate about Cosmics as he is. I mean, this guy lives and breathes Cosmics, and I'm not. So I just wasn't excited. Like every week I'm excited to talk Mythics with people that I respect and friends. And Cosmics, like I felt like I would be an imposter if I was,
totally
if I was talking it. So I regret that show never was aired. I think we had a great convo.
I think it served its purpose, which is getting you both into kind of the mode of doing this and talking to people and stuff, because now he's doing his thing on Tuesdays, you're doing your thing. It was really good to get both of your feet under you as far as, just
I was nervous
talking to people in the community. So
I was telling Jeff before the show, I'm like, dude, Curtis going to eat us up. Like, we got to be careful. We got to make sure that we're not making mistakes. And you were like, you're like giving Jeff shit about his what was it? Was it Zoom that he was using?
Oh yeah. Because you guys were doing Zoom instead of StreamYard.
Like a business meeting from the 80s or something. And I'm like, oh my God, he's already ripping us. And I'm like, come on, Jeff, this is not working, dude. We did have someone, I won't mention his name, great guy. We had an interview after you guys's, and this guy, he just talked and talked and talked. And I was like, I had to text Jeff. I'm like, Jeff, wrap it up, dude. Like, tell him, hey, thanks for coming on the show. it was rough. I mean, great guy, but like
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, we got to wrap this up. We're talking for like an hour and a half, and he's rambling about. I don't want to keep saying, but he might watch the show or something. But I was like, oh man. But you go through, you learn by doing and trying and stuff.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
and you've always been there. You've given advice. I've sent you many messages like, hey, what do you think about this? And what's your advice on that?
Yeah, I mean, I try to listen. I love this community, and I love all the content that gets put on this community. I try to watch every single show every week if I can. This whole, being on every show, this isn't just just for this gauntlet and stuff. I love these shows.
Mm,
And I try to catch every single one that I can. And I typically will offer my support to all these shows. Say, hey, if you ever need anything, let me know. Now,
absolutely.
the only one that's really taken me up on it so far is PGG, and which is why I'm backstage there every week. But yeah, it's, I love the Mythic content. I love watching it. I love the people that are doing it, and anything I can do to help, I'm want to be there for them. So
Yeah, I
um,
appreciate that. You're like a dad to the community in a good way. It's like you're accessible, you're there, you're helpful, you're friendly. You can give shit. If
oh
if
yeah,
need
yeah,
be, you give your opinion, you give your truth, your tough love. But you know, it comes from the heart, and people that know you know that everything you do is from the heart, and you're sincere, and you're kind, and generous. And Purple Gang also Jordan and Van, those guys have so much heart. And
yeah.
it's
I mean, they bring so much energy, especially when they go to a convention. Like they
yes,
go to a convention, it's like if you weren't having a good time and you walk into a convention where PGG is at, you're gonna have a good time. Like they're gonna turn that frown upside down for sure.
absolutely, yeah,
So
absolutely. And they're like you, they're just pillars of the community, I think. I mean, their show is crazy, it's madcap. What's up, Randall? But it's like if you get to know them, or you meet them, or you see them at a con, you know I saw them at, I think it was ZoloCon, and I was waiting in line. Those guys were already in there, but they weren't
mhm,
buying, they were just being cheerleaders, they were just
right.
helping it, and just being good guys. And how you doing, how's it going, good to see you,
Mhm,
hugs, and all that stuff. They're just ambassadors of wholesomeness.
for
And
sure.
then, like you said, I love that about the community. You guys are always there, always accessible, always friendly. And I embrace that, and I love it, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to just kind of shout out the rest of what I've got for the gauntlet, if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's go back to the.
Because one of the things, well, there's something else that's not on there tonight.
Okay, what you
Apparently,
got?
I'm
What you
going to
got?
be making a pop in on Legion's Lair. Now, they have
Nice.
they have a guest, and I don't want to step on their guest or anything like that, so I'm not going to be there for the whole episode. But I will be popping in there. Tomorrow, I will be on Mythic Conversations with Jeremy. We're going to be talking all about Legion's
I'm so
Con.
excited for that, dude.
So that'll be fun. Thursday, I'm going to be on Legion's Cast. Now, this is what I want to kind of talk about because they're asking me to ask them questions. I think it's called the Naked Truth episode, and so if anybody has questions that you wanted to ask Emil or Len or Steven, they've got to answer these questions. So send them to me in PM. We don't want them to know them ahead of time. Um, Try to keep it PG-13 or better. And I will do what I can to try to get those questions out there. But I need some questions from the community. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to ask my own. And then Thursday night, then I'll be popping in with the Legion's ladies. Same thing. They've got their own guest. I don't want to step on that.
Hmm.
It's Corn Boy, who was just on New to
Yes, that's
Mythics
going to
with
be a
you the
good
other
one.
night.
That's going to be a good one.
And then I'll be doing Off-World 2.0 on Friday, and everybody's welcome. So basically, anybody that wants the link to Off-World 2.0 and wants to get on screen with us, I'm going to send the link out to them. Once the screen's full, the screen's full. But
I'm actually off
yeah,
Friday, which I never am, so I might hit you up and
sounds good.
and pop in if you don't mind.
Absolutely. And then at some point during the week, I'll be working with Euro Legions to do something with them. So
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be a busy rest of the week, but I appreciate you having me on. This was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, man, you'll have to come back. I would love to
Mhm.
have you come back and talk more customs and stuff like that. I really love that aspect, and I really love how you embraced it, and you become such an integral, for me, an integral part of the cabal and the community. Um, I think ambassadors like you and like Lynn, Purple Gang Gang, it's like you guys are emanating the goodness that is coming from the studio as well. So much goodness
You're
is
gonna make
coming
me
from
blush.
them. And no, I'm just being honest. Like, and that's how I see it. I mean, I don't know everything about you,
I've got a
but I
reputation as an asshole to maintain here,
right.
Swerver. You're kind of ruining it.
But it attracts us. Like Terrence is a new guy, but he's really, picked it up and ran with it, and it's like this community, it fills holes within us that
Mm,
I think we're missing, the friendship and the brotherhood and the community. um and it all starts with the studio, and you guys emanate it with, things that you do and the shows, and the creativity and the kindness and generosity. So
yeah,
I want
yeah.
to
I
thank you
mean,
guys.
it's been said a lot, but it is more than a toy line. It has helped a lot of us out. I know Jesse and I on our channel, we've talked a lot about kind of mental health and stuff, and
Yes.
this community has been so beneficial to so many people in that way.
Yes.
Just giving them a toy line, a hobby, whether it's painting, photography, whatever, just like this creative outlet.
Hmm.
And then also meeting all these great people.
Hmm.
It
Absolutely.
you go to an event like an IshCon or a MesquiCon or Legions Con, and you leave with 5, 6, 7 more friends than what you had when you went there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just
Yeah,
extraordinary people.
yeah,
Like Wesegway,
yeah.
Echevarria. I mean, that guy,
Anyway, yeah, yeah,
Echevarria. I
I
mean,
love
just
Kent's so great.
extraordinary people. Jesse
Yeah,
is like literally solid. He's half baby, half bear, all wholesome.
half
You know,
baby, half bear, all wholesome. I
yeah,
love it. That should be the
it's
tagline for Jesse Con.
that's
Jordan, if you're still here, make sure you put that down there. Half baby,
absolutely.
half bear, all wholesome. I
But
love that.
yeah, I just love this community so much. If you like, and you said it before, you get what you put into it,
Oh yeah,
and if you put your heart into it, you're gonna get it returned back to you.
yeah.
And I just love that. So thank you very much. I appreciate you being on, and I appreciate you being who you are in the community. If you guys are new to Mythics, hit up Curtis, send him a message and say, hey, I'm interested in the customizing studio. I'm a little nervous, you know, and just pop in
Yeah,
for a minute on Sundays at 1. Send Curtis a message, and he will set you up. So thank you
100%.
so much for your time, man, and
Totally.
good luck on your gauntlet. I
Thank you
will
very
be
much.
I will be there watching. I appreciate you. And with that, we are out of here. Thank you, man.
See you, folks.
Remember, friends, to always have fun, be curious, share, and enjoy what this line has to offer. Come for the toys, but stay for the friends. Good night, and thank you very much.